Don't take my word for it. Look that mess up, please.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? KCE, King Chaka.
An educated and united public cannot be controlled. Get organized.
Learn to be active.
Looks like we got us another hit.
You tell her to get away from me. She's crazy.
Choose your destiny.
An educated and united public cannot be controlled. Get organized.
Learn to be active. Investigate both sides of the argument. Come up with your own conclusions.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? KCE, King Chaka.
And now, another major production.
Hey, how y'all doing out there? How y'all feel? Remember, an educated public cannot be controlled. Learn to be active. The views and events expressed here are totally whacked and are not necessarily the views of anyone. ¿Cómo estás? Bien, 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 bien. ¿Podemos ayudarnos más? Sí se puede. Don't take my word for it. Look that mess up. Please. Look it up. Look it up. Background noise. How y'all feel? How y'all feel? Y'all feel good? Don't know how much longer I'm going to be on. Don't know how long I'm going to be on today because I got to work a double tomorrow. But yo, shout out to Rumble. They sent me $10. I don't know if it actually went to the right account because the debit card number that it was under changed. So maybe I check my account, see if the money actually went there. I went and changed the information. So for future deposits, hopefully I'll actually get it. But hey, that's the first $10 I've made off of doing this show. So I don't know. Maybe I should put a $10 bill on the wall or something. Like Mr. Krabs. Maybe my first $10. Anyways, it's $10 is something, right? It's not zero. I'm still heavily in the red, but you know, it is what it is. Peace and love. How y'all feeling? Easily Manipulated is the name of the show today. I don't know how much I really want to talk about that because it's pretty self-explanatory, but like, I don't know. The person that says, you know, I haven't been programmed, I haven't been brainwashed, you know, I'm not easily manipulated, you know, those tend to be the people who are easily manipulated. And, I don't know. I was thinking about the rap beef thing that they got. Like, that's the biggest thing on the internet, I swear, the last few weeks. Kendrick Lamar and Drake. And I don't know, man. I just feel like it's a lot more stuff going on in the world. I understand you want to be entertained. I get it. I can't knock you for wanting to be entertained. I just feel like, they're making money off of it, and that's really all it's about, and your attention. So it's energy vampires, it's attention vampires, and as long as they're so successful at gaining and maintaining your attention on stuff that doesn't really matter that much. I mean, hey, making money, I guess it's a thing, for Kendrick Lamar and Drake and the record labels behind them. For them, I guess it's a good thing. But as far as, like I said, there's so many other things going on in the world for you to be putting so much of your time and attention into it. If you're not making money off of it, I just don't really understand that. I don't know, but that's just the way I think. So it's like, like I say, energy vampires, easily manipulated. Like, they have created a public that is like, they press your buttons and you move right on cue like a robot. And they're very successful at it. They're very good at it. The ads, that's the reason why I avoid ads like the plague, because people say the ads don't affect me. And then they're in the drive-thru ordering some new burger, or they're on Amazon and they're ordering some new product or whatever the hell. They're going to go buy a new car or whatever it is, some kind of appliance or furniture for their house, some kind of frivolous purchase. And they're like, I'm not easily manipulated. The ads don't have no impact on me. I know how powerful ads specifically can be. That's the reason why I avoid them like the plague. They're annoying as hell, and I know that they can have an impact on me. I know this without a doubt. So I'd rather not see them, so that they won't have the power. They won't have a chance to get me. Like, you can't avoid like the billboards and stuff like that, the buy or whatever, but all of these pop-up ads, these ads that's on television or TV shows or whatever it is that you're watching, I pay for YouTube to keep from, because that's one of the main things I watch is YouTube, and I care not to see those ads, so I'm willing to pay them to keep from having to see those ads, keep my sanity. So, like I say, they've created people who are easily manipulated. Education is part of that, but you can be educated and still easily manipulated. I just think that the less you are educated, the less you are aware of the power of media, the less you're aware of your algorithm, your echo chambers, the less aware you are of like what they use to trigger you, your triggers, less aware of your triggers. It's like, if you're asthmatic, I'm an asthmatic, so I know about this as far as what triggers my asthma, and I'm really sensitive to certain things, and I know what those things are. Knowing what those things are helps a lot with avoiding them, because when you don't know what triggers you, then you can be triggered and you don't know why you're triggered. You may not even know that you are triggered. Anyways, it's just something to think about, Like I say, look that shit up is my motto. Type something in your search bar and go down the rabbit hole on your own, instead of allowing the reels or whatever that pops up in your algorithm take you down the rabbit hole. take control of it, look at both sides of it. Even if it's something that you wholly believe to be true, go look at someone who is, questioning it and see what they have to say, or read something about what was written that goes against what you really believe, what you believe to be true or whatever, about a story or whatever. And one of the things I noticed is I can get clicks and views if I just cover news stories about somebody getting murdered or sexually assaulted or robbed or something. But I don't see any real value in covering that stuff. It doesn't have any staying power, if you will. Once a little bit of time goes by, it becomes nothing, And I think it goes along with the energy vampire thing where, we're just taking in information, but we're not learning anything. We're not growing. We're not getting anywhere, Yeah, and then it supports the narrative of the status quo of like crime is so horrible and it's so humans suck, they're so terrible, don't even go outside, like avoid your neighbors and stuff. They're probably gonna rob you or something, all the negative, if it bleeds, it leads. All of this stuff is triggering, but it doesn't accomplish anything really. We don't get anywhere with that stuff. So I try not to, I still cover some of that stuff sometimes. I try to look at it in a big picture, and get some kind of understanding about the world from those stories. But for the most part, I just care not to cover those kinds of stories. So it's like I say, easily manipulated. You get angry and you're just now, like, the easiest way to control people is by fear, right? But you can control people in other ways by stimulating them. You can be stimulated by sex, or you could be stimulated by trauma, like not really like fear, like just like having to do with other people's trauma or whatever. You could be controlled with like entertainment type stuff. Anyways, maybe I'll come back to it. Where do we want to start? Let's look at some headlines, some AP headlines. Let's start off there. Top story. Am I sharing? Top story. Strong solar storm hits Earth. Could disrupt communications and produce northern lights in U.S. It says, an unusually strong solar storm hitting Earth could produce northern lights in the U.S. and potentially disrupt power and communications this weekend. They've been saying this kind of thing for the longest, and I still haven't ever seen it really happen as far as, disrupting communications and disrupt power. I haven't seen that happen from solar flares or whatever so far. Maybe I just missed it or whatever, but I noticed that the sky was really hazy in Texas, and they said there were fires in like South Texas or whatever, causing cloudy skies. I don't know. And a lot of conspiracy theorists, people are really digging into this particular story. I've seen some stuff online where people were like really kind of digging into this. But it's really easy to be like, oh, the end of the world or whatever. Like, be really careful, or like, don't go outside or whatever, or something like that. Or maybe go outside and then absorb the, electromagnetic forces. I don't know. I just think that, that kind of stuff, again, it kind of goes back with the title, easily manipulated. It's a real thing. I'm not saying like solar storms or whatever, solar flares or whatever aren't real. It's just really easy to jump on it and be like, gain people's attention. And let's look at the story a little bit. Is there a video or is it going to be just ads? Hold on. Let's see. I'm sure an ad is about to pop up. For people like me, this little scrolling circle right here is the devil. Huh. What did I do?
We owe our existence to the sun. But on the other, we owe our existence to the sun. But on the other hand, we have also to
Come on, man. What the hell is going on?
be a little bit careful, because a star is pretty active, is pretty explosive, and can be very violent as well.
A solar storm kind of starts with what we call a solar eruption, right? So there can be multiple parts of that eruption.
What happened during the last few days, there is a system of very complex sunspots that came together and formed a huge active region of the sun. And these are extremely active. In the span of a day or a day and a half, they launched, I believe, something like 7 coronal mass ejections.
This is sort of a huge explosion that can be associated with the flare, but basically what happens is part of the sun actually lifts off the surface, right? So this plasma, the charged particles, the magnetic field that makes up the sun, part of it actually lifts off the sun and streams away into space. In this case, we've got multiple, 5 at this point, CMEs that are all coming earthward at the same time. And that's pretty unique and special about what's happened over the last few days.
So we might expect power outage in some places. We might also expect some communication disruptions.
All of those different industries, the power industry, the communications industry, the GPS industry, the satellite industry, they're all paying attention and working on the back end so that, 99% of the time, none of us are going to be aware of anything that's happening. The most common thing that people might see, the thing that's kind of most accessible to everyone in everyday life, is the fact that the auroras might happen at lower latitudes than normal.
If you have clear skies tonight and maybe the tomorrow night as well, go out there, enjoy the spectacle. It will be amazing.
Well, too bad we don't have clear skies. Too bad we don't have clear skies here in Texas. Might have been something to see. I don't know. Maybe it's cleared up since the last time I looked up, but and then he said 99% of people won't be aware of any impact that it would have on power and communications. So maybe that's why I haven't seen or remember any effects that has happened. I think that, it's kind of like in every movie, whenever something really crazy happens, they tend to not tell people or they lie to people about it, because, and I understand why they do it too, because it's like, what's the point? And people are just going to freak out, if the earth was going to explode, if it was really the end of everything, what would be the point? Just go about your life the way you would normally, and then it'd be over or whatever. And, what's the point in getting everybody all upset? I'm not saying that's what's happening, so please, people, don't think, that's not what I'm saying. Don't freak out. Strong solar storms hit Earth, could disrupt communication and produce northern lights in the U.S. So that's crazy. Northern lights is usually at the equators. So if we saw them here, I think that would be kind of cool. Cape Canaveral, Florida. It says by Marika Dunn. Updated 10/49, May 10, 2024. An unusually strong solar storm hitting Earth could produce northern lights in the U.S. this weekend and potentially disrupt power and communications. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration issues a rare severe geomagnetic storm warning when a solar outburst reached Earth on Friday afternoon, hours sooner than anticipated. The effects were due to last through the weekend and possibly into next week. It says NOAA alerted operators of power plants and spacecraft in orbit to take precautions, as well as the Federal Emergency Management Agency. I would think that the satellites would be the ones. So then I guess that's what they're talking about when they say like disruptions, because I could totally see how satellites could be impacted by this. How does it impact like the people that's on like the International Space Station and stuff like that? I wonder. It says, for most people here on Earth, they won't have to do anything, said Rob Steinberger, scientist at NOAA Space Weather Prediction Center. The storm could produce northern lights as far south in the U.S. as Alabama and Northern California, according to NOAA, but it was hard to predict, and experts stressed it would not be dramatic curtains of color normally associated with the northern lights, but more like splashes of greenish hues. You look up and see greenish hues in the sky, you might think something crazy. It says, that's really the gift from space weather, the aurora, said Steinberg. He and his colleagues said the best aurora views may come from the phone cameras, which are better at capturing light than the naked eye. Oh, so take some pictures of the sky, you might be able to get it. It says, snap a picture of the sky, and there might be actually a nice little treat for you, said Mike Betway, operations chief for the Prediction Center. The most intense solar storm in recorded history in 1859 prompted auroras in Central America and possibly even Hawaii. We're not anticipating that, but it could come close, said NOAA Space Weather Forecast Sean Dahl. Pictures would probably be really cool. They'll look edited, though. How would you know if somebody edited it or if it was real? I think that's the problem with the present world. And, especially with like the internet, knowing what's real and what's not is getting more and more challenging. I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I guess in the future, it won't even matter no more, because kind of like when you think about virtual reality and you're like in a video game, you're in a simulation, but it's so, real that you can't distinguish it from real life. Do you think that technology would get to that point? And how much impact would that have on humans, like the way we behave? I remember a movie where it was like the people that kind of lived in the thing, and it was like they lived as their avatar or whatever. That's crazy. I think that a lot of people would choose to live as their avatar if they could. It's like maybe people are already kind of doing that to a certain extent with their internet personalities, with their their social media and the posts that they post all the time. Like it's always so perfect. Like their meal is so perfect. Their makeup or whatever is so perfect. Their outfit is so perfect. The place that they're at, like a vacation or whatever, is so perfect. And then that's what they post, and the way they look to the rest of the world is like their life is so perfect. And all of the problems or whatever that they have in their life, like the struggles or whatever, they don't post that stuff. So it's just seems like they have this perfect life, and people are watching it and they're like jealous or whatever, envious or whatever. And it's not real. It's not really real. The places they go are real. The makeup is real or whatever. It's just that that's not them, really. Right after they posted, then they're no longer smiling, no longer happy, no longer like enjoying life. Maybe they weren't even at that moment. Let's read some more. It says, this storm poses a risk for high voltage transmission lines for power grids, not the electrical lines ordinarily found in people's homes, Dow told reporters. Satellites also could be affected, which in turn could disrupt navigation and communication services here on Earth. An extreme geomagnetic storm in 2003, for example, took out power in Sweden and damaged power transformers in South Africa. Even when the storm is over, signals between GPS satellites and ground receivers could be scrambled or lost, according to NOAA. But there are so many navigation satellites that any outage should not last long, Steinberg noted. Yeah, so your computer systems will probably just switch to the other, so whatever one is working. So maybe on your end, you might just see like a lag for a moment while it's switching to another satellite. It says the sun has produced short flares since Wednesday, resulting in at least 7 outbursts of plasma. Each eruption, known as coronal mass ejection, can contain billions of tons of plasma and magnetic field from the sun's outer atmospheric corona. Yeah. So, and I think about the movie The Matrix, you know, the only weapon they had against the machines was the electromagnetic pulse, which would shut down the machines temporarily. That's interesting to me, you know, as we move into the future and we rely on, you know, AI and technology more and more. And then the sun, maybe the sun becomes more active. What happens if, you know, we're so relied on these things and, you know, we do have stronger electromagnetic pulses or whatever coming from the sun, and it shuts down all of the. All I know is that if the lights were to go out, the internet was to go down for longer than, you know, a couple of days, people would lose their shit. What do y'all think? Let's see. Kind of bored with that story now. What's going on? It's like, what? What'd you say? You're bored with this story? Watch me freeze up all your stuff then. Don't disrespect the sun. I'm the sun, fool. All powerful. Another headline, it says, U.S. says Israel use of U.S. arms likely violated international law, but evidence is incomplete. Oh my God. Evidence is incomplete. Basically, they're saying we're not willing to just go out and say that. Other headline, it says, Barron Trump, 18, won't be serving as Florida delegate to Republican convention after all. Yeah, I saw that story where they were like, he's going to become a delegate or whatever. So apparently he said, no, I'm not really interested. So then they just threw him in that pot without even talking to the guy about it. Like, bro, you're going to be a delegate. He's like, nah, I'm not really feeling that. Well, maybe it's just one of those empty ass stories. Thomas says critics are pushing nastiness and calls Washington a hideous place. What? You just now realizing that, bro? They say politics is the dirtiest, nastiest, freaking grimiest thing ever. Critics are pushing nastiness. Critics are pushing nastiness and calls Washington a hideous place. Just now realizing this, buddy. Seriously. Maybe he's talking about related to the story of Marjorie Taylor Greene. She tried to oust the majority leader this week unsuccessfully, but they came up with that rule. They should just throw that rule out because that's the real problem. They changed the rule and allowed it to be only one person that can put up for a vote to get rid of the majority leader. So I think she had one co-sponsor. So I don't know. It was just her. and one other person who was like, yeah, let's get rid of the speaker. And now they have to make a vote on it. And that's what they did. So, but they overwhelmingly, knocked it out. But, if the Democrats wanted to stir things up, they could have jumped on that. So that's an opportunity. So that's allowing like the minority of the party to really have a stranglehold over the majority leader, because they can oust them at any moment just for whatever freaking reason, So I think they should change that rule. That rule is silly. And that's how they got Mitch McConnell out of there. Is it Mitch McConnell? No, Mitch McConnell stepped out. My brain is fried right now. I freaking was at work all day, so I can't even remember the name of the guy. It wasn't Mitch McConnell. It was God dang it, what was his name? It was the guy that came after Mitch McConnell. I can't think of his name. Let's see, other headlines. Red, yellow, green, and white. Smarter vehicles could mean big changes for the traffic light. White? What would the white stand for? Y'all can't just change stuff like this on me. I'm going to be confused, man. If I see white, I ain't going to know what to do. Do I go? Do I stop? Do I slow down? I don't know. What does white mean? Let's start crying. Y'all gonna have to re-educate everybody, man. That's like what I was saying about the they don't make you you only have to take the driving test once, you know what I mean? And once you get your license, you don't have to take the driving test anymore. And I don't know if that's, it's an unpopular opinion. I think a lot of people would not be happy about it, but people that has got their driver's license like 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, like the laws have changed. So much have changed. I think that they should have to take the test again, because they put a lot of the traffic laws and stuff in there. And you should be aware of those things. 50 years have passed. You don't know anything about like the laws. You can control your car and that's fine, but you should be aware of the laws, So, and then you got people who, their cognitive abilities have diminished, I know you have to take the eye exam when you renew your license. So that's a good thing. But if your cognitive abilities have declined since then, there's no test for that. You know what I mean? So if you make them take the driving test again, there's an instructor in the car, and they can be aware that your reaction time is too slow or whatever it is. You get distracted easily, you're not focused, but whatever, man. I talk about trains, and then you're going to be like, you want to take my freedom away from me. You could just go ride the train, bro. It'd be less people on the road. You can still drive your car, man. It says flooding forecast to worsen in Brazil South, where often only the poor remain. Yeah, the videos coming out of Brazil is pretty crazy, man. They're going through it. Sam Rubin, beloved LA entertainment anchor and interviewer, dies at 64. 64 is way too young. Iowa sex trafficking victim who killed alleged abuser sought by authorities. North Korean leader Kim supervises latest test of new multiple rocket launcher. He's always doing that kind of thing. But at the same reason, that's the reason why he hasn't been taken over. That kind of stuff is a deterrent, and it works. What was the country? I can't think of which country it was. It was an African country. They told them to get rid of all their nukes and all of that, and they did. And then right after that, they got invaded and taken over. It says Panama's next president says he'll try to shut down one of the world's busiest migration routes. How's he gonna do that? Oh, this one. It says in reversal, Virginia School Board votes to restore Confederate names to 2 schools. This is a crazy story right here, man. I don't know how you guys feel about it. I don't really care, honestly. But, hey, these guys were losers, bro. Like, since when do you put losers on the side of the school and make freaking statues and shit of them? They lost, bro. You lost. Like, if you was I don't know, you went to the Olympics and you got last place, are they finna put a statue up on you or give you an award or something? Like, remember you? Like, who remembers the people who lost the Super Bowl? Who remembers who lost the finals in the NBA finals? Call me crazy. This is crazy to me right here. So it seems like I said, I feel like in a lot of ways things are going backwards. To me, it sounded like a move forward when they started taking down this stuff. But now they're going back to putting this stuff back up. Around and round we go. Matthew Barakat, May 10th, 2024. It says a Virginia school board voted Friday to restore the names of Confederate military leaders to a high school and an elementary school, 4 years after the names were removed amid nationwide protests calling for a reckoning over racial injustice. In a reversal, experts believe was the first of its kind, Shenandoah County School Board voted 5-1 to rename Mountain View High School as Stonewall Jackson High School and Honey Run Elementary as Ashby Lee Elementary. I'll confuse the hell out of these kids. They're going to be like, I go to Mountain View. They're going to be like, no, you go to Stonewall Jackson. What? I've been going to Mountain View like this whole time. It's not Mountain View no more. You stupid kid. Keep up with things. It says Friday's vote reversed the decision by the school board 2020 when school systems across Virginia and the South were removing Confederate names from schools and other public locations in response to the Black Lives Matter movement. The Southern Poverty Law Center's Intelligence Project, which maintains databases of more than 2,000 Confederate memorials nationwide, is not aware of any other case of a school system restoring a Confederate name that was removed, said senior research and analyst Rivka Maislish. He says, so this is the first time this has happened where it's like they take the name away and then they give it back. Like, so wishy-washy, buddy. Like, pick a side. And what freaking difference does it make, really, as far as whatever? Overall, the trend toward removal of Confederate names and memorials has continued, even if it slowed somewhat in 2020, she said, noted that the Army renamed 9 installations named for Confederate leaders and removed a Confederate memorial from Arlington National Cemetery. In Virginia, local governments have been banned from removing Confederate memorials and statues until the law was changed in 2020, though the statute did not apply to school names. Oh, okay. So Virginia, being that it is the Old South, they said, y'all can't remove any of our Confederate memorials or statues. They forgot to put in school names. It's like, wait a minute. We meant schools too. On Friday, school board members who voted to restore the Confederate names said the previous board ignored popular sentiment and due process when the names were stripped. Elections in 2023 significantly changed the school board's makeup, with one board member writing in an op-ed for the Northern Virginia Daily that the results gave Shenandoah County the first 100% conservative board since anyone can remember. That board member, Gloria Carlania, said during the 6-hour meeting that began Thursday that night that opponents of the Confederate names should stop bringing racism and prejudice into everything because it detracts from the true cases of racism. Whatever, man. Like, they was fighting for people to continue to be slaves. So, I mean, that's not racism. They were the 3/5 of a person. That's not racism. That's not prejudice. Like, stop bringing prejudice and racism into everything. Wait a minute. Come on, man. Prejudice and racism is what it's all about. That's what we're talking about here. That's what we're talking about. People that was prejudiced and racist. The lone board member to vote against restoring the Confederate names, Kyle Gutschall, said he respected both sides of the debate, but believed a majority of residents in his district wanted to leave the Mountain View and Honey Run names in place. So look, so earlier they said it was against the general consensus of the people, but here this guy is saying that what they're doing now is against the general consensus. You know, they are the school board or whatever, so then they can make the decision. But I wonder how much did they take a poll? Did they do a vote? Like, did they get any other people involved in it? What do y'all think? Should we change it back to the Confederate names? Don't ask them nothing. I mean, like, they're stupid. I don't judge anybody or lock down. I don't judge anybody or look down on anybody for the decision they're making, he said. It's a complex issue. During several hours of public comment, county residents spoke on both sides of the issue. So they did do like a little public deal. Beth Ogle, a longtime resident with children in the school system, said restoring the Confederate name is a statement to the world that you do not value the dignity and respect of our minority students, faculty, and staff. Kenny Wakeman, a lifelong county resident, said the Stonewall Jackson name stood proudly for 60 years until 2020, when he said the actions of a rogue police officer in Minneapolis, Minnesota prompted a move to change the name, a reference to the killing of Floyd that propelled nationwide protests and debate over racial injustice. So it wasn't really about the actions of the rogue police officer. It's really that was like a straw that broke the camel's back or whatever. That's not the focus. The focus is the history of the United States, you know, and having some kind of reconciliation with that history, some kind of reparation. Thomas J. Stonewall Jackson was a Confederate general from Virginia who gained fame at the First Battle of Bull Run near Manassas in 1861 and died in 1863 after he was shot and had his arm amputated. Jackson's name was also removed from another high school in Virginia, Prince William County in 2020, that is now known as Unity Reed High School. Ashby Lee is named for both General Robert Lee and Virginia native who commanded Confederate forces, and for Turner Ashby, a Confederate cavalry officer who was killed in battle in 1862 near Harrisburg, Virginia. A high school near Harrisburg is also named for Ashby. Yeah, when they said the name, it was confusing me, like Ashby Lee. And you're talking about two different people, like, that's confusing. The resolution approved by the school board states that private donations will be used to pay for the name changes. Oh, okay, so I guess if it's not public money, then I guess you don't have nothing to complain about, huh? Shenandoah County, a largely rural jurisdiction with a population of about 45,000, roughly 100 miles west of the nation's capital, has long been politically conservative. In 2020, Republican Donald Trump won 70% of the presidential vote in Shenandoah, even as Biden won Virginia by 10 points. It says in Virginia, local governments were banned from removing Confederate memorials and statues until 2020. Law lifted those restrictions. Statues and Confederate leaders, including Lee Jackson and Confederate President Jefferson Davis, was removed from Richmond's famed Monument Avenue in 2020 and 2021 following protests and vandalization of statues. Getting bored with this. Freaking whatever, man. I think we should be trying to move forward instead of moving backwards, but hey, I'm just a guy. So Houston lost their police chief this week. I knew it was coming because the big all of his right-hand men got out of there. So, but he got to retire and get to keep his pension and everything. I don't know if that's the case for those other guys, his assistants who got out of there some weeks ago. Where's this story? I just saw it on my screen. Now it's showing ads. Yeah, so he got to retire. It was all about those cases. Mostly a lot of them were sexual assault cases that wasn't being prosecuted or whatever. And they did an investigation on that. And they were like, this is unacceptable. It was like 240,000 cases, like a lot of cases. And what's in here? And so his assistant chiefs all had to go. And now he has to go. Let's look at this. It says Houston mayor says police chief is out amid probe into thousands of dropped cases. Ken Miller and Juan A. Lozano, May 8, 2024. Houston's mayor has replaced the city's police chief, saying Wednesday it was the best thing for a law enforcement agency that's still under intense scrutiny. Over hundreds of thousands of cases were never investigated, including more than 4,000 sexual assault allegations. Yeah, so he's saying he was being replaced, but they said he retired. And you know that when you're like in those kinds of positions and they say you're retired or something like that, usually it means you got fired, but they aren't saying that, you know. And like I said, he gets to keep his pension and stuff. So he was only police chief for like 4 years or something like that. I met this guy too. He comes into the restaurant all the time. I shook his hand and chopped it up with him a little bit. Seemed like a cool dude. He's the one that's always on TV whenever something, you know, intense happens in Houston. He's always up there talking. This is how things work, though, you know. And then they're saying like we got a new mayor or whatever, and people were saying, well, you know, we got a new mayor, and the mayor just wanted to clean out the, you know, get his people in there or whatever. But I don't think so. I think that, you know, the pressure of the situation is what led to these decisions. Like when you have a situation like this, you know, you got to make it look like you're doing something about it. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, heads got to roll. You know, you gotta have to get somebody else in there. Like if you get somebody else in there and then you have a new situation like this one, then you'd have to deal with that at that point. So, but some of this stuff was, I want to say, dated back to before Fenner was even the chief. But you know how it is, though. When you're in charge, everything is your fault. Because they say he didn't even know anything about it. But then you should, right? You're the police chief, so that's your job. So, like, I'm willing to bet he didn't know anything about it. You know? I'm willing to bet he didn't. But at the same time, you need to know. You should know. That's your job. Get somebody underneath you to do the work and, you know, send them files across your desk, you know. Do an audit. Hey, y'all do an audit. Let me know what the hell's going on. Send me a fucking email or something. It says, Mayor John Whitmer said he did not push out former police chief Troy Fenner, but accepted his retirement as the police department needed to move forward under new leadership. They kind of, like I said, I don't think they really had a choice because the allegations was pretty horrible, and you know, people were outraged about it. So I don't think they really had a choice. They probably had a meeting with him. He was like, "Man, we hate to do this, but you know, either you're gonna have to retire or we're gonna have to terminate you. These are your options." He's like, "I'll take the retirement." It says during a news conference, Whitmer said The ongoing investigation and questions of what Fenner knew and when were having a cumulative impact on the morale in the department, the focus of the officers, and the confidence that Houstonians need to have in their police department. Whitmire, who took office in January, had expressed confidence in Fenner after the chief revealed in February that more than 264,000 incident reports in the past 8 years were never submitted for investigation as officers assigned them an internal code that cited a lack of available personnel. That shit pisses me off too. That's what they were saying, lack of available personnel. Like, we have like the most officers, I want to say, than any other city, bro. Like, I could be wrong. Y'all quote me, look it up. We have a shit ton of officers, bro. Like, lack of personnel. Come on, bro. Our budget is through the roof. These guys are getting paid so much. Fenner gets paid like 200 and something thousand a year. No, bro, you're getting paid way too much money to be talking about you don't have enough people to take care of this shit. Y'all getting paid so much, you need to be doing the work of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 niggas. Like, out of here, man. Oh, I don't know. That triggers me right there. Anyways, so it says in the past 8 years. And like I say, Fenner, I don't think he's been in there 8 years. I think he's been in there like 4. So that's only half of his time. Like, how many of those incidents actually happened while he was in? It sucks. Fenner had said he ordered his command staff in November 2021 meeting to stop using it after learning of its existence. Despite this, he said he learned on February 7th of this year that it was still being used to dismiss a significant number of adult sexual assault cases. So yeah, so maybe he did kind of know about it. He tried to put an end to it, and they were still freaking doing it. But this could be a cop out right here. This sounds like one of those deals where, like, you know, yeah, I told y'all not to do that, you know, but not really, like not really trying to enforce it. Like, I have to tell y'all not to use that. But if you used it and I didn't know about it, then, you know, it didn't really happen. You heard me? That's what it sounds like right here. And, you know, they have a lot of deals like that where they say one thing, but they mean something totally different. I don't like that kind of shit. I really don't like that kind of shit at all. Like, say what you mean what you say. Like, a person like me, if you said don't use that anymore, I'm going to take it as don't use it anymore, not as, you know, you can still use it, but officially you're not supposed to use it type shit. It says Whitmire's confidence in Fenner seemed to quickly end this week after Houston's television stations reported Tuesday that Fenner had been informed about the dismissed incidents reports in a 2018 email. So that's around the time he came in right there. Whitmire called the discovery of the email the final straw. The bottom line is the department is being distracted due to issues with the investigation. From his primary mission of fighting crime, Whitmire told city council members he appointed Assistant Chief Larry Satterwhite as acting chief. In a late Wednesday afternoon post on the social platform X, Fenner did not address his sudden retirement. He called the last few months of his career the most challenging and painful because some victims of violent crime did not receive the quality care and service they deserve. I follow his Instagram page, or maybe it's the Mayor Whitmire, the mayor page, but they posted on that. I have something on that. I'm going to go back to that because in a minute. There's reason more. It says, but it was beneficial because we implemented measures to ensure this never happens again. Fenner said on the platform formerly known as Twitter. Our department and our profession will be better because of it. During a news conference Wednesday afternoon, Satterwhite was asked by reporters about when he first learned that cases were being dismissed because of lack of personnel. Satterwhite, who had been with the police department for 34 years, said he briefly attended a November 2021 meeting where Fenner told his command staff to stop using the code, but left as he was focused on other duties. Satterwhite said that sometime in late 2023 or earlier this year, he might have heard something about the code related to a specific case, but it wasn't until later that he learned of the magnitude of the problem. We as an agency on this one failed, Satterwhite said. Satterwhite said becoming acting chief has been difficult under these circumstances as he and Fenner are longtime friends and attended the police academy together. You on the high seat now, buddy. I'm going to do my best to make it better. And then we shall see, Satterwhite said. Fenner had apologized in March about the use of the internal code to dismiss the incident reports, and he said he would be transparent and truthful in the ongoing investigation. Regarding the 2018 email made public this week, Fenner posted a statement on X saying he did not remember that email until he was shown a copy of it on Tuesday. That could be true. I can believe that right there, because he probably gets a lot of emails. Even though the phrase suspended lack of personnel was included in the 2018 email, there was nothing that alerted me to its existence as a code or how it was applied within the department, Fenner wrote. Several city council members on Wednesday expressed gratitude for Fenner, who joined the Houston Police Department in 1990 and became chief in 2021. See, like I said, 2021, it's only 2024. So what? We're barely we're halfway into 2024. So what? He got 3 years, 2.5 years? City Councilor Carolyn Evans Shabazz says she missed him already. That's crazy. 2021. And then they're talking about hold on. How are they going to say a 2018 email and he wasn't chief until 2021? Man, this dude got scapegoated. Oh, man, that's so shitty. That's how it goes, man. It's just like politics. When the guy was in the restaurant and he was talking to, we get a lot of politicians and news anchor personalities and police chiefs type people in the restaurant all the time. And these people, they talk about politics. And I heard him, he was talking about politics and he was like, because people were pushing him to try to, I don't know what position, because I didn't hear that part of the conversation, but they were trying to talk Fenner. I'm talking about Fenner, the chief, well, ex-chief now, to run for some kind of public office. And he said he wasn't interested because it was so shady, you know, so grimy. And look at this. So this type of thing, you already in politics as a chief of police, you know, yeah, the political winds blew in another direction, and he had to take the fall, bro, like a scapegoat. That's sad. It says after Fenner made public the department's use of the internal code to dismiss these cases, Whitmire launched a review by an independent panel. Whitmire said he hoped the panel could provide a public update next week. The Houston Area Women's Center, Houston's largest nonprofit supporting victims of domestic violence and sexual assault, declined to comment Wednesday on Fenner's retirement. But in a social media post in February, he said sexual assault survivors pay a high price when investigators aren't clearly resolved. You know, it's really, really sad. You know, that's this real story here, is people not getting justice, you know, and not feeling safe. You know, if I, you know, was sexually assaulted and then I went to the police and then they didn't do anything about it, maybe the person that assaulted me found out about me trying to put a case on them or whatever, and then they come back and harm me further. You know what I mean? Like, this would make you not want to go to the police about these kinds of things. And that's what's really sad about this, because that's like the message that you're sending to these people, is to just suffer in silence. You know, we're not going to believe you, and we're not going to do anything about it, you know. So yeah. I have 2 daughters, you know, and men are sexually assaulted too. It happens, you know. So the the fear and the anxiety and the embarrassment that women have to go and report a sexual assault is multiplied by 10 for dudes, or multiplied by 100. They might just straight up laugh in your face, but it's not funny. It's serious. It's a real thing, you know, and it, you know, and then they use the excuse that we didn't have enough personnel. Like, that's a cop out. So yeah, I'm glad that it's been this huge backlash on this situation. It's really unfortunate that Fenner had to lose his job as a result of it. You know, are things really going to change? They said that he already made the code change, that you can't use that code or whatever, but are things really going to change? You know, and how long has it been going on? You know, police departments around the county are facing an urgent staffing crisis, and many younger officers resign and older officers retire, according to August report by the Police Executive Research Forum. Applications to fill vacancies plummeted amid a national reckoning over how police responds to minorities. Yeah, see, what the police is, you know, HPD specifically here in Houston, what they need to do is they need a PR campaign is what they need to do. They need to reach out to the community and get a better reputation in the community, you know, by actually helping people, by actually doing things that, you know, benefit people, like making people actually feel safe. Like, you know, if you work a beat, you work a certain area, you should know these people in these neighborhoods because you are in that neighborhood all the time. Like, I know for a fact it's true in certain areas, because in the Memorial area here in Houston, the police that work in those areas, they know a lot of those people. The people know those people. You know, they buy their lunch, they buy their dinner. I'm talking about the people buy it for the police officers. They know them, they recognize them, they shake their hand, they chop it up with them, you know. But in the poorer neighborhoods, that is not the case. There's not a relationship between the people and the police. I mean, there is a relationship, but it's not a friendly one. And that is the difference. So if you was to get to the point where the people actually had a relationship with you and they knew you actually had intentions of keeping them safe or whatever, then you wouldn't have problems finding people who want to sign up to be a part of that. You know, it's people that's in the hood, they don't want to be police officers, because the relationships that they've had with the police hasn't been good, so they don't care to be in that. It says, in April 27, a report by the same Washington-based think tank found more encouraging numbers. Small and medium agencies now have more sworn officers than they had in January 2020, according to a Forum report. In large agencies, sworn staffing slightly increased during 2023, but it's still more than 5% below where it was in January 2020. So I guess that's the legacy of the Black Lives Matter thing. So yeah, I want to say that protesting doesn't do anything. You know, and I was thinking about that. I was thinking about the people who complaining about the campus protests. And I'm like, these probably the same people that would have been complaining about the civil rights era or women's suffrage or, you know, Vietnam or apartheid South Africa. Like, I mean, you name it, they would probably be like, get a job, you hippies. Why you're 19 years old, you don't know anything. Yeah. Why are y'all protesting for? You don't know nothing about nothing. Everything is fine. Y'all just causing problems. I'm just trying to get to work. You must not have a job. I don't know. I really do think that it's the same people. It would be the same people. Wrong side of history every time. Supporting the establishment every time. Supporting the status quo every time. Like, things ain't never gonna change. People suck. Humans are horrible. So why even try? Your protesting is not gonna make a difference. Those are not my sentiments. I'm being sarcastic, by the way. In case you didn't notice, like, this is the attitude of the person that has a problem with someone protesting. Maybe it won't make a difference. Maybe you're right. Maybe things will never change. But you know what? Things will never change for sure if nobody ever pushes back and tries to make a difference. The only person crazy enough to change the world is the person that's crazy enough to think they could change the world. Anyways, I need a voice break. That sounded like a song lyric. Don't steal my shit. I think they got some clips in here I don't want to share, but I do want a voice break. Let's see. Hold on. Give me a second. Maybe I have something else. I must have been watching on my other profile. Let's switch. Give me a second, y'all. Things have been going slow today. Maybe it's the solar flares.
People do not think critically enough. I mean, this critical thinking is a skill in short supply, where people take too many things as they assume too many things to be true without sufficient basis in that belief. So it's very important that people closely analyze what is supposed to be true and try to build up. Try to say, let's analyze things from first principles, not by analogy or not by convention. If you assume things are true by convention, which is actually what most people do, then it's difficult to gain insight into how things can be bettered. People do not think critically enough. I mean, critical thinking is a skill in short supply, where people.
I completely agree with them here. Critical thinking. People just go with the popular narrative or whatever, whatever their news source that they trust the most says, they just go with it. Whatever their politician that they, vote for says, they just go with it. I kind of like the way Eon speaks sometimes. Like, he's always like stuttering like that. And you could tell that he's really kind of like thinking about what he's saying, trying to find the right words or whatever. I admire that. I admire that, because a lot of people are afraid to seem like they don't know what they're saying or whatever by like kind of stuttering or fumbling over their words. But you can hear, or you could see his mind kind of working while he's talking, which I think is pretty cool. Because that means he's not repeating talking points that he heard from somebody else. I'm missing comments. Oh, man, these are old. 20, 40, 60, 70, 80. What was that? I don't even know. Said, who'd thought flooding rain in a tropical country? Well, man, Brazil, it's not normal, though. The amount of water that they got is not normal. Like, I think they're like 100-year, 200-year floods that's happening there. And climate change is real, and the cycles are different. Certain areas will be wetter and other areas will be drier, and that is the case with that. So I saw a story though about Dubai, and that they like to manipulate the weather over there, and they're having some flooding too, but they're saying that it's as a result of them seeding, cloud seeding. That's a different situation than what's happening in Brazil. The flooding over there is really, really catastrophic, over the top. Hold on. Yeah, him talking about people lacking critical thinking skills. Man.
What is your view of this war?
I think when you call it a war, you're doing a disservice to the people who are having their limbs blown off by some of the most advanced technical weaponry on the planet. It is a genocide and it's disgusting. And it doesn't matter which side of the political spectrum you fall on. When you observe a genocide in front of your very eyes, you should be disgusted.
Which side is waging genocide?
The Israelis are genociding the Palestinians, and you know it as well as everybody else does. Well, then it seems like your bosses are not allowing you to know it.
What is your view of this?
See, your bosses aren't allowing you to know it. I love it. So, I would have thought that Andrew Tate would have took a different take on this topic. So I was fairly surprised at his take on this. And I would say he has the absolutely correct view of it. With a hint of anger in there, and also calling the guy out, like, your handlers, your bosses, it's the reason why you're saying what you're saying. Let's do a little bit of philosophy. Give myself a break.
What if this world is actually one giant prison? When the 19th century philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer observed the amount of pain that we experience during our lifetimes, he concluded that it's not happiness and pleasure we're after, but a reduction of the ongoing suffering that's an inherent part of existence. When looking through the grim lens of Schopenhauer's philosophy, as he compares this world to a prison, or more specifically to a penitentiary, we start to see some astounding similarities. As is the case with prison, no one in general chooses to be here. We can't leave until our sentence ends, or unless we end it ourselves. We're limited by the walls of time closing in on us, as each day brings us closer to death. And within the confines of our limitations, we generally experience a stream of suffering, tragedy, worry, and misery. We desperately go from one pleasure to another, just to experience temporary relief from pain. In the process, the organisms that inhabit the earth, driven by what Schopenhauer called will to live, feed on each other in an attempt to survive, just so they can prolong their miserable lives a bit longer. Like prison gangs, the species of the world are entangled in a continual war for dominance. Eat or be eaten seems to be nature's order when we look at how plants, as well as certain animals, only serve as food for other animals who themselves succumb to the destructive presence of human beings. Humanity, in turn, while exploiting its own members and draining its natural habitat of resources, falls prey to some kind of disease or disaster. When we remove the veil of ignorance and behold the harsh reality we live in, we might start to question, as Schopenhauer does, the idea that, I quote, "This world is the successful work of an all-wise, all-good, and at the same time all-powerful being," end quote. For Schopenhauer's view of the world is one of agony, devoid of divine grace, and it has much more in common with a penal colony than with the creation of a benevolent deity. Now, seeing the world as a prison sounds like a recipe for personal misery. Why not adopt a more positive, more hopeful perspective? Why look at it with such pessimism? Well, Schopenhauer's idea comes with a twist. Within this pessimistic worldview lies an outlook that could be very beneficial to humanity. Based on his essay on the sufferings of the world, this video explores Schopenhauer's pessimistic outlook on life and reveals a secret to be gained from it. Schopenhauer stated that, as opposed to what many people think, not pleasure, but pain is the positive element of existence. He argued that evil is what makes its existence felt, and is, by way of that, positive. Good, on the other hand, is negative. It is but the removal of a disturbance. The state of happiness and contentment is nothing more than a desire fulfilled, or the end of some state of pain. So the experience of pain is the source of our desires and needs. Hunger, for example, is a state of discomfort, which has the potential of becoming painful, that leads us to desiring food. Thus, eating is not a positive experience, as it's only considered pleasurable because it fulfills a desire that is derived from pain, or a sense of lack. According to Schopenhauer, pain far outweighs pleasure in this world, and the pleasure we incur is often less pleasurable than we expected, while pain is much more painful. We only have to look at an animal who's eating another animal and compare the pleasure of eating with the pain of being eaten to decide which one of the two outweighs the other. Schopenhauer not only calls life a disappointment, but also a cheat. Life generally becomes more painful when we age, as we experience tragedy after tragedy, while we become increasingly prone to sickness and death. And even though life unfolds as a string of misfortunes, when we're still young and idealistic, the world just looks so promising. But all of our high hopes eventually erode, and we end up disappointed and wretched by the hardships that have fallen upon us.
You know, I don't know that I completely agree with this, but I do have a pessimist view of things. And, you know, for me, having a pessimistic view of things, it leads to a certain amount of satisfaction when things go well. You know, it's like a happy surprise, if you will. Like when things go bad, then it's just like, well, I kind of expected it to go bad. But if it goes well, then I'm like, oh, it went well. It's kind of like, you know, being wrong about things when I'm pessimistic is a good thing. Like, you know, oh, I was wrong, you know, and it was a good thing or whatever. Good things came out of it or whatever. It's just my way of living. And it probably comes from a traumatic childhood. Always expecting a disaster around. I'm always expecting a disaster to come around the corner. Like, so when that's the same reason why I like things to be kind of plain and boring. You know, I don't like surprises. I don't like craziness. I don't like, you know, I do like dramatic change. So don't get me wrong. I do like dramatic change, but I don't like, I just like things to kind of flow, you know, and I'm always overthinking things and I plan heavily. So I plan my day out, I plan my week out, I plan my month out, I plan my year out. And, you know, I want things to go according to plan as much as possible. And I even plan for things to not go according to plan and what I'm going to do in those situations or whatever. So, but the idea of, you know, the earth being a prison, that part is really interesting to me because I think about how, you know, we haven't found what we call intelligent life yet. And you know, what if we were in timeout, you know, the planet of the children, you know, we haven't evolved far enough to become part of the galactic community. You know, we're in a, you know, we're like in the backwater of the universe. And, you know, when they fly by, they're like, don't go down there. They're ghetto, you know, avoid that whole area, you know, avoid that whole solar system. Like the whole Milky Way galaxy. Just avoid that area, and there's barriers put in place to keep us, here, if you will, within our neighborhood, if you will. Like, that idea is pretty interesting to me. But as far as the way nature is being a prison, I don't like that idea. I think that, that leads to like kind of a hopeless thinking. But what they were saying in this video, I'm not going to play the rest of it, but what they were saying was that it's this way this guy's looking at things is really not negative. It's really a positive. Like, he was talking about the pain and talking about how, like, basically it's like, pain is your greatest teacher. You learn from that. You learn what not to do wrong. It's kind of like your body, your physical body. When you're like in an uncomfortable position or you have a bad habit, your body gives you signals, and if you listen to your body and you make adjustments, then you're good. So it's like that pain that you get is a signal from your body to make a change, to do something different, change your position, change your habit. And the part where he was talking about, like, the pleasure is just like a relief from a suffering, like it's fleeting. The pain lasts, and it guides you. It's like it's more real. I don't know, that just took a dark turn. Let's read some comments. Caption, it says, what if the world is actually a giant prison? But a 19th century philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer observed the amount of pain that we experience during our lifetimes. He concluded that it's not happiness or pleasure we're after, but a reduction of the ongoing suffering that's an inherent part of existence. When we remove the veil of ignorance and behold the harsh reality we live in, we might start to question, as Schopenhauer does, the idea that, I quote, this world is the successful work of an all-wise, all-good, and at the same time an all-powerful being, end quote. For Schopenhauer's view of the world is one of agony, devoid of divine grace, and it has much more in common with a penal colony than with creation of a benevolent deity. Now, seeing the world as a prison sounds like a recipe for personal misery. Why not adopt a more positive and more hopeful perspective? Why look at it with such pessimism? Well, Schopenhauer's idea comes with a twist. Within his pessimistic worldview lies an outlook that could be very beneficial to humanity. Based on his essay on the suffering of the world, the video explores Schopenhauer's pessimistic outlook on life and reveals a secret to be gained from it. Yeah, so last week we were talking about religion, and we were talking about, like how maybe humans created God for their own sake, and the idea of like God is good all the time, but except for when he's not. There's a what is it? Where did I get it from? It says God, the devil is God in a ski mask. I think it's from a song. The devil is God in a ski mask. Yeah, so for me, the yin and the yang is the balance, the dark and the light and the dark, and just saying God is good all the time there's no evidence to support that, in my view of the world. And I think we will become more intelligent. We're able to navigate the world better when we can acknowledge the good and the bad, and the bad and the good. Like, you could be a super villain, but to be a super villain, you have to do some good. And you have to be okay with that some of your work is actually going to have a positive impact. And the other way around, you could be, you know, a superhero, but some of the work that you do is going to have a negative impact, you know, the opposite of what you're hoping to accomplish. But see, on that good side, that's the one where, you know, the person would try very hard to not have any negative repercussions from his activities. And I think that that will leave him to be not as effective in his goals. Does that make any sense? If he's too worried about, you know, the negative repercussions of what he did. There's a movie, what was the name of it? The guy was a police officer, and basically a little girl was kidnapped, and they had to investigate that crime. But come to find out at the end, it was like the police chief or whatever had did the kidnapping, but he did it because the environment that the girl was growing up in was terrible, you know. So it was wrong what he did, but he did it for good reasons. So, but by the end of the movie, they end up finding out that it was the guy who did it, and the kid got returned back to her parent, and in that terrible environment. And the one police officer, the one that was all about the moral part of the whole thing, and was like, it's wrong or whatever to take this child from this parent, even though the environment that the child was in was not good. He was there with the mom at the end of the movie, like one of the last scenes of the movie. He's there with the mom and the child, and the mom leaves out the door, and she's like, I'm going to go do such and such and such or whatever. Can you watch her for me or whatever? So he's sitting there with the girl and babysitting her or whatever, and the mom is leaving. And the movie goes off. I can't think of the name of that movie right now. Really great movie. And but the child would have had a great life. That the guy who, you know, that the child was going to be with after it was being kidnapped really cared about the child and was going to make sure that the child had a great future and so forth and so on. And the child liked the guy or whatever. They had a good relationship. So I don't know. It's kind of the point what I'm making about the good and the bad and the bad and the good, you know, trying to do good, but having bad results. And that was the case within that movie. And it was just kind of like trying to play with the idea of morality, and, you know, doing the wrong thing for the right reasons, you know, or doing the right thing for the wrong reasons, you know. What the hell was the name of that movie? Now I want to look it up. Y'all don't know. Morgan Freeman was a star in that movie. And I want to say Ethan Hawke in that movie? Somebody out there tell me y'all know what I'm talking about. Oh my God. What the hell was the name of that movie? I suck at names. I can never remember names. Let's read some comments. It says, the best way to keep a prisoner from ever escaping is by making sure that he never knows he's in a prison in the first place, that he never feels he is in one. Yeah. Invisible bars, invisible prison. Now, we're talking about something here. Like, I don't know that this video was going into that particular idea like this right here, from this quote right here. But yeah, now we're talking about something that I can subscribe to clearly, you know, with the way society is made up, you know, in a lot of these states. When I say state, I mean like a big community, large communities. Yeah, invisible prison, no walls. But you're still in a prison, like open air prison. I think we have lots of those. I think that's a real thing. But That's not like what this guy was talking about with nature. This is a man-made situation here. Another comment says, when I was a kid, time was slow. It felt magical. I used to walk everywhere and enjoyed it, and now life is serious and stressful, mood swings, etc. If someone offered me $1 billion to go back to my childhood, I would choose my childhood. Why would they offer you $1 billion to go back to your childhood? But I get your point. But, you know, we're less aware of things. You know, it's kind of like, I think about like a dog. Dogs are happy, but they don't really know a lot of stuff. They're not really aware of what's happening, you know? I think the more intelligent you are, the more sad you are, naturally. Another comment says, sometimes I feel my existence is a prison and I'm being punished for a crime I didn't know I committed. I can relate to that. Another one that says, Agent Smith told Neo that we're not here because we are free. We're here because we are not free. So then how do you escape the Matrix? Another comment that says, maybe this world is another planet's hell. Another comment that says, life is a prison is a more convincing metaphor than life is a journey. Another comment that says, I went to prison at 23 and was out around 29. After prison, the U.S. deported me away from my family. The day I stepped free, I looked around at the world and realized it was just one giant prison. Ooh. Another comment that says, prison is a good analogy, but hell is more accurate. Another comment, to live is to suffer, to die is to rest. My 93-year-old Filipina grandmother. But again, what he's saying about suffering is actually a good thing. And I think that's what we need to try to, you know, grasp in this concept. You know, to live is to suffer. I don't think that anybody can argue with that. But to not live, you know, to not be alive, no one would choose that. You know, it's an opportunity to suffer, if that makes any sense. Like, to feel the sensations of being alive is what you would want, rather than to feel nothing. Does that make any sense? Like, yes, to live is to suffer, but you're alive, you're feeling, you're going through the journey, you know? It's like, you don't know what's going to happen, you know? And that drives you, that keeps you going. Like, anything can happen, you know? You might find a new sensation. You might find a new happiness, you know? You might accomplish something, you know? It's an opportunity. Another comment that says, life is meant to be enjoyed. It's meant to be overcome. So, but what does it mean to overcome life? To not be bound by its limitations, to not be driven by worrying about this or that, to supersede expectations. I'm not sure what the answer to that would be. Another comment says, I came up with this on my own, haven't never heard of this man. Good to see that so many intelligent people agree. A couple more. The smarter you become, the more you realize that you don't want to be in this world. I don't know if that is it, but I get what he's saying, though, to a certain extent. You know, like I say, the more intelligent you are, I think that the more you're aware of suffering, the more you're aware of things don't have to be the way that they are. That's how I feel. And that's the reason why I do what I do. And that's what drives me, is that things don't have to be the way that they are. They don't. You know, things can change. You know, the only thing constant is change. And we don't have to live the way that we live. You know, I think that people were more free before we had these cities, before we had all this technology. You know, Maybe our lifespans were shorter, but I think we lived more full lives. Now we just go to work and pay bills. Like, what is there to look forward to? Next month's bills? Anyways, let's get out of here because I think we're getting depressing. We're at almost 2 a.m. I can't stay past 3. I got to get up in the morning. Let's see. Do we want to do X or do we want to do Insta? Al Jazeera got shut down in Israel. The tide is turning, I think, on that situation. It may not be necessarily because of the campus protests, but I think that that's a like, I can't find the right word. That is a part of the tides changing, like a manifestation of the tide changing. I really don't. It's the same top stories. It's the same thing. Like, where everyone is on the story, they are there and they're not moving, especially at this point. It says there have been 6 huge AI and robotics developments happening this week so far. It says Tesla Optimus robot demonstrates factory work. A new Tesla video reveals Optimus, the company's humanoid robot, can now sort battery cells using neural networks, demonstrate error correction, and walk more freely within the office space. It was a guy who was talking about how AI is not going to lead to less jobs for people. It's going to have the opposite effect and lead to more jobs for people. And I think that's more like right. You know, even though all the stories are saying your job is going to be gone, these robots are going to take your job, I just don't see it. I really don't. And the way the guy was explaining it is that, you know, your people are going to become infinitely more, what's the word? Productive, infinitely more productive, you know, which will lead to more jobs. It says researchers are using AI to create new proteins that do not exist in nature to fight diseases like cancer and asthma. But see, those repetitive jobs, the ones that we don't really want to do, are going to be the jobs that the computers, the robots are going to do. You're always going to need people to do things because, you know, I don't care how advanced technology gets, you know, it's going to be things that they're not going to be able to do. Somebody has to guide all this stuff. Can I play the 60 minutes clip without getting a copyright?
Yes, we are actually generating what we call de novo, completely new structures that have not existed before.
Do you trust it?
As scientists, we can't trust, we have to test. We're not putting Frankensteins into.
At Generate Biomedicines, Dr. Alex Snyder, head of research and development, is using NVIDIA's technology to create protein-based drugs. She was surprised at first to see they showed promise in the lab.
Initially, when I was told about the application of AI to drug development, I sort of rolled my eyes and said, yeah, you know, show me the data. And then I looked at the data, and it was very compelling.
Dr. Snyder's team asks its AI models to create new proteins to fight specific diseases like cancer and asthma. A new way to defeat the coronavirus is now in clinical trials.
You're now working with proteins that do not exist in nature, that you're coming up with by way of AI?
Yes, we are actually generating what we call de novo, completely new structures that have not existed before.
Do you trust it?
As scientists, we can't trust, we have to test. We're not putting Frankensteins into
We can't trust, we have to test. I like that phrase. I think they're looking in the wrong places for a lot of this stuff. I think that, yes, you can use AI in this way, but I think that they should be looking at nature and, you know, enzymes, fungus, other animals, fish, flowers, plants, for these naturally occurring enzymes, and finding ways, using AI to find ways to use them for us. I'm kind of scared of creating totally new things when it comes to like using it for health or whatever. Like, you're not going to know what the long-term impacts are going to be. I mean, I guess you could run models to see, but you still won't know until, you know, like, how do you know what the impact something's going to have on the human body over time without testing that thing on the human body over time? And then once the time has passed, can you go back? You know, you may not be able to. And that's kind of scary, because I think they do test things on people over time without people knowing it. And then that's when they pull back the, I want to be careful how I say this, but the AstraZeneca jab was pulled off the market recently.
Only get better from here.
Brett Adcock is CEO of Figure, a Silicon Valley startup with funding from NVIDIA. Look at his answer to labor shortages, an NVIDIA GPU-driven prototype called Figure One.
I think what's been really extraordinary is the pace of progress we've made in 21 months.
From zero to this in 21
Zero to
months.
this, yeah. We were walking this robot in under a year since I incorporated the company.
Could you do this without NVIDIA's technology?
We think they're arguably the best in the world at this. I don't know if this would be possible without them.
I'm here to assist with tasks as requested.
We were amazed that Figure One is not just walking, but seemed to reason.
Hand me something healthy.
On it.
Figure One was able to understand I wanted the orange, not the packaged snack.
Thank you.
It's not yet perfected.
Yeah, you're gonna...
This is a technology that will only...
Yeah, what's scary to me is the way that they can manipulate these videos now, these AI videos, and recreating people and conversations. And as right now, you can kind of see the lips move kind of weird and stuff like that. But as that improves, you're not going to be able to distinguish between like me sitting here talking to y'all and an AI generated video of me sitting here talking to y'all. Like, you're not going to be able to distinguish the difference between them. And I think that that's scary, because we're already in an age of disinformation and, you know, fake news and so forth and so on. So images we see on TV and we'll think it's something that's happening, and it won't be. It'll be AI generated, and it's going to be nearly impossible to determine what's real and what's not. Like, you'd have to actually go to the place where the thing is happening and see it happening. You know, kind of like the movie The Matrix too. Like, you know, you're in the Matrix, but everything around you is AI generated. So there's no thing that's not AI generated. Therefore, you don't know, you know, what the hell is actually happening around you. So that's scary stuff for me.
I welcome you. My name is Victoria Shi. I have been created by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, using artificial intelligence to provide you with timely and high-quality information on consular affairs.
See, the lips move kind of weird.
That means that the text you hear...
The lips move kind of weird. So right now, that's what you can see that would show you that it's not real. But as that improves, we're not going to be able to tell. Right now we could tell, but I think it won't be long, maybe a few years, and we won't be able to tell. I don't think we should fear AI. We should fear how it's used. Kind of like what we were talking about last week is like, like I say, butter knife can be used to spread butter, or it can be used to stab somebody in the neck, So we need regulations on this stuff. I covered this earlier. This guy right here, man.
As long as so many of you.
I'm not going to play it because I'm just going to get irritated with it. Israel may be misusing U.S. weapons. Maybe, just maybe.
Be recognized. Lady from Boone.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just to speak on the bill.
Proceed, lady.
This is a good bill, and everyone should vote yes for this. But I'm just going to kind of expand here. It seems like the division is great in this room. One side of the aisle versus the other is so obvious. At what point are people going to be self-responsible? Some people seem to think the government is the answer for everything. Free food, free health care, free this, free that, free. But it's not free. These young kids need to be taught self-responsibility. And I can tell you my personal story. I started working at age 9. And I continued to work throughout high school when I was 14, 15. And my parents, I wanted to get a driver's license. And they're like, sorry, Cherie, we can't afford to add you to our car insurance, much less a car. And I went to work in Columbia at 15, but my older brother was 17. So we worked the same location. He drove. He was able to buy his own car and pay his own insurance. And my parents were fully supportive, and it didn't affect any grades whatsoever. My parents always asked me, Cherie, how do you get A+? Well, Mom and Dad, you get 100% on your homework and you do extra credit. And throughout high school, when I was working 12 months out of the year, my high school counselor came to me and said, Cherie, you're bored. You got enough credits. Graduate early. I graduated early out of high school, went to work full-time, working full-time while going to school. It is good for these kids. And you know what these kids of today are? Majority of them are lazy. They don't know what work ethic is, but they know how to play video games all night. They know how to join gangs. They know how to get into trouble. Get a job and be responsible. Vote yes.
Be recognized.
You know what? I think a lot of these people like this are kind of jealous. They're envious of these kids, living life when they was freaking working at 9 years old. Like, who the hell works at 9 years old anyways at this day and age? Like, come on, man. Like, she's talking about it like it's a good thing. Like, no, it's not. Like, you should have been able to focus on your studies instead of having to freaking work all the time or whatever. And the parents that have the money to be able to put their kids on the insurance and buy them a car, guess what they do? They buy their kids a car and put them on their insurance. It's okay, if your parents didn't have it or whatever, but don't try to put pressure on other people to tell them that they're supposed to be working at age 9 or they're lazy. These people are angry, really. I think that these people are hurt behind their childhood, and they don't want others, to have any kind of like freedom, like to actually grow up and be a child for a while. I had to grow up at 9 years old, so should you. All these video game playing that you do. I didn't get to play no video games. I was working. Okay. That was you. It says probably talking about working full-time at 9. Ma'am, you are a victim. It says GOP Missouri, Iowa Representative Sherry Tolson Risch gave an unbelievable speech to defend a bill rolling back child labor law. She says her constituents are raising lazy kids who join gangs instead of working full-time at age 9 like her. Yeah, man. Yeah, it just so happened that these corporations would love to have an more exploitable workforce. They'd love to have, some new consumers. That's who these people really work for. That's who these people really represent, not the people. Rolling back child labor laws. Like, they put these laws in place. We're going backwards. They put these laws in place for a reason. They would put kids in like a little hole that only the little kid could fit in, and he would be in there for 15, 16, 18 hours a day, and he'd grow mutilated. He would grow with a hunch in his back. He would be a little person when he shouldn't have been, like malnutritioned and all freaking deformed, just so the corporation can make more money. Get the F out of here, man. I guess people forget history. They don't teach history properly. So people need to learn history. People need to be taught history. There's a reason why the child labor laws came into effect, because the corporations are going to do whatever they can to make the most money, and they don't care about people being deformed, losing limbs, losing their life as a result. So you have to regulate them. It says lawmaker says she's been working since age 9 and is better for it as she defends a child labor bill. Then she proceeds to call kids these days lazy. Comment, it says, I started working at 9 and I turned out fine. Babe, I'm not sure you did. Yeah, talking the way you're talking, maybe not so much. Another comment, it says, she had a miserable childhood, so all the other kiddos should too. Someone needs to reread The Jungle by Uptown Sinclair. Yeah, The Jungle. That was I remember that. I want to say they made us read that in school. But yeah, that was showing how they were making kids working in these factories and they were getting all freaking deformed. Not even able to have kids. Like, all fucked up. Comment, it says, working full-time at 9 years old, that's not a boast. This is when everyone around you stares and you realize your funny story that you tell at dinner parties is actually a traumatic event. Another comment says, meanwhile, she has free health care from the government, plus free money from the government for travel expenses such as food, shelter, and when traveling. She also gets free eye and dental vision from her government. So I'm not sure why she wants everything for free. Yeah, but I can get everything for free because I'm a government official. But all y'all out there wanting free stuff, y'all just want free stuff. And you're lazy. Man, screw these effing people. This guy shreds the damn shit from the UN. Screw that guy too. I don't know if I want to play it. I think I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to save some stuff for tomorrow. So I'm going to get out of here. Peace and love. Thank y'all for joining. Thank y'all for listening.